Miller, and this is the first in a small series of videos that I'm making about poker. Specifically, this series is going to be about kind of regular poker players, 2-5, 5-10 type level players, maybe 25 or 50 NL players online. That kind of the kind of levels that regular folks play when they play poker. And these aren't playing videos. I'm not going to show you, how to, bluff raise turns and stuff in these videos. These are more kind of what what does poker look like as a game? You know, what does the poker economy look like? What are these people that inhabit these small and medium stakes games? What does their skill level look like? How much money is available to win in these games? What do you need to do to kind of move up to the next level where you are taking advantage of these games? And and then kind of just try to look inside the psychology of a lot of the players that are playing in these games. What are they thinking about? What do they do well? What don't they do well? And that sort of thing. That's what this series of videos is about. I'm hoping it's a little bit different from some of the other videos you may have seen in the past. It's something I think is interesting and is also very important because if you understand some of these ideas, I think it immediately gives you, it puts you really in the right direction if your goal is to survive and thrive in that sort of poker game that most of us play. So this video is called Everyone is Terrible at Poker. I hope I haven't lost you yet. So the first question might be, why am I so mean? Why am I telling you that everybody is terrible? And the reason is that even today, it's 2014, I've been playing poker for 13 years, and this has been true throughout my poker career. There is a massive widespread delusion about poker skill. In general, I would say most people think that they are far, far, far better at poker than they actually are. And they also often think that their opponents are far, far, far better than they actually are. Now, the reason why I think this delusion persists is because people tend to sort themselves out in this game by skill levels. So, if you decide you're going to play 2-5 no limit regularly, and 8 other people in your game also decide that they're going to play 2-5 no limit regularly, you're going to have a roughly equivalent skill level to those players. Now, someone's going to be the best and someone's going to be the worst, and maybe the difference between the best and the worst is pretty large, and you'll say, man, that guy sucks. But the reality is that pretty much anybody playing at that level on a regular basis is going to have a skill level kind of within two bands. And this is true for 2-5, it's true for 5-10, it's true for, online at 25 no limit, 50 no limit, and so forth. That the game really stratifies by stakes, and players sort themselves out according to skill levels. So because if you're a 2-5 regular, you pretty much only play against 2-5 regulars on a regular basis, you're going to be comparing your skill level to them, and you're going to be saying, man, I'm good, or man, he's good, or whatever. But the reality is that if you were to compare yourself against a more objective measure of being good at poker, like, say, Phil Ivey, or, say, a computer program that plays poker, kind of as well as computers can play poker, you'd see that there is actually a massive, massive spread in skill between the top, Phil Ivey, and where regular 2-5 players are. So, in general, I think most people who play poker, sure, they know that Phil Ivey's better than them, but I don't think they really understand how much better these guys are than everyday poker players. So that's the first thing I kind of want to talk about. And the reason I want to talk about it is it's not here to demoralize you. I'm telling you, okay, you're probably terrible at poker. If you're watching my video, if you're playing regular stakes against regular people, you're probably terrible at poker. It probably applies to you, but my goal is definitely not to demoralize you. The opposite, in fact, is I'm hoping that if you understand kind of the true state of poker and understand what this game looks like, that it's going to inspire you, because you're going to see as the video continues that there's actually a ton of opportunity in this game for somebody who's willing to just put in a little bit of extra work than their peers. So I'm going to compare poker to chess. I played chess pretty seriously as a kid, I haven't played it in a long time, but I'm familiar with the chess world. And most people, even if you haven't played chess seriously, you know the game. I mean, there's pieces, they move, that kind of thing. Like, so, and I want to compare them because in some ways they're actually pretty similar in terms of the ecosystems of chess and poker. So, first, chess is very hard. I think everybody kind of knows that. People study for years and years, and they improve incrementally over time. So, the way chess works is, you pick it up, you study it like crazy, and for the first year or two, you make vast improvements. You start at the very bottom, and quickly you'll put a lot of people behind you if you work hard. But then it starts to slow down really dramatically, and you can, and the next year and the next year you work, you get only incrementally better, and you're only putting a few percentage, you're only working your way up the pyramid at that point, a few percentage points at a time, over a long period of time. And most people cap out at a certain strength, and this is true, almost for every endeavor. But unless you're preternaturally gifted, you're not going to become the best in the world at something. That's just reality. Um, is the person who is the very best chess player in the world, who today is Magnus Carlsen, has, I don't know him personally, but I guarantee you he has a freakish natural ability for chess, on top of the fact that pretty much all he's done every day for the last who knows how many years is study chess. So it's those two things together, the fact that he is a gifted human being at this particular thing, and the fact that he works like crazy, that gets him to the very top. you know for most people, and that's, for him, that's only going to be for chess. He's not going to be the world's best baseball player, or whatever. He's going to cap out at, whatever. So the reality is that most people cap out at a certain strength. So they improve slowly over time, and then they just stop improving. They just really can't get better than a certain level. Chess has a wide player base. A lot of people play chess. It's a popular game. Uh, it's people play chess tournaments and so forth. And there's a wide skill disparity between the elite players and the vast majority of players. If you take, Magnus Carlsen or any of these guys who are at the very top of chess, and you were to pit them against, just a regular player, where you walk into a chess club here in Las Vegas, and enter the tournament and play against whoever's there playing in the Las Vegas Chess Club, I mean, Magnus Carlsen would just obliterate every single person in the club. And that is very, very true in chess. The other thing that's true in chess is that there's no money in it unless you are in the top 0.1%. So, as you're making these incremental improvements, there's no financial promise at the end of the rainbow, really. I mean, you have no idea when you start out in chess, where your cap is going to end up. And are you going to cap out at, a regular player level? Are you going to cap out at an expert level, at a master level, whatever? The problem is that unless you cap out at just a really, really high level, you're never going to make any significant money playing chess. So it's so in that way, it's kind of a demoralizing game. It can be. Um, now now let's talk about poker. Poker is very hard, which is similar to chess. I would say, I don't know. I haven't compared the complexity of the games. I've seen threads about it. I don't know, but it's. I'm gonna say it's of a similar complexity to chess. It's a hard game for people. Um, People study it for years, and they improve incrementally over time, just like chess. So the first year that you start playing poker and you study like crazy, you're gonna pass by a bunch of people. But then, after that, the next year and the next year and the next year, you're gonna improve only incrementally. Most people cap out at a certain level. You are not gonna become as good at poker as Phil Ivey. I can almost guarantee you that. That's just reality. Um, Poker also has a wide player base. It is, even wider than chess. I'm kind of, I don't know that for a fact, but I believe that to be true, that as popular as chess is, and it's a popular game, poker is at this point even more popular, and there are just a ton of people playing poker. There is a wide skill disparity between the elite players and the vast majority of players, and this I think is almost as true in poker as it is in chess. The people at the top of poker are really just way, way, way better than average players. And this is sort of the thing that I think people don't really understand exactly. Sure, they know, oh yeah, Phil Ivey, he's really good, but he's really, 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 really much better than everyone else. But the good thing about poker, and this really is the saving grace, and it's in fact why a lot of chess players have started playing poker, is that there's lots of money in poker, and you don't have to be at the top 0.01% to start making it. Even if you're in the top 10% of players, you can make pretty good money playing poker. So let's talk about the club player. So club player is a chess term. These are players that play on a regular basis at local chess clubs, and they travel regionally to play in tournaments. So if I'm based in Las Vegas, I may go to California to play in a tournament, play in tournaments here in Las Vegas, maybe go to Denver, that kind of thing. And they study the game with some level of interest. So, if I were a club chess player, I would have a local club. They would have tournaments. I would play a competitive game at least once a week, and I would read books. I would do puzzles. I would, do active things to try to make me better at chess. These players are competitive amongst themselves. So, if I'm a club player and I play against other club players, I'm going to have a good a good competition. I'm going to win some, I'm going to draw some, I'm going to lose some. And they basically have absolutely no shot against any elite or semi-elite player. So there's this entire pool of chess players, and they're serious about the game. They play it on a regular basis. They study it. This is an important part of their lives. They enjoy the competition against other people, and yet if they were paired against an elite player or even a semi-elite player, they would get blown off the table. They would have absolutely no shot whatsoever. Um, and poker regs are club players. So any reg in a commonly offered poker game, I'm going to talk about, up to like 2-4 online and 10-25 live. So basically any game that, you can kind of count on to be going, maybe not 24/7, but on a very regular basis, that has a player pool and that kind of thing. Any reg in one of those games is a poker club player. That's the equivalent kind of level that any of these players are at. These are players of varying skill. They take the game seriously. If you're a 5-10 regular, you take the game seriously. You get your butt in there. You play poker, many hours a week. You put study into it. You watch videos. You read books. You try to get better. And these players stratify. The 5-10 regs are going to be better than the 1-3 regs. But the thing that's true about these poker regs that is just as true for the chess club players is that none of these players have any legitimate shot against the elite or semi-elite players. The top players will just blow these guys out of the water. And the thing about poker is that it hides its strata. The random element of poker hides this deep stratification that exists in the game, just like in chess. In chess, club chess players are going to feel overmatched against a grandmaster almost immediately. All they got to do is play one game, 2 games, takes 2 hours, and it will immediately be clear that they have no shot to really get a result against a grandmaster. But it takes much longer for a poker game, and I put game in quotes because it's not clear what, game poker doesn't really have clear beginnings and ends like chess does. There's hands, but beyond that, a series of hands, how long is a game? It's not clear. But it takes much longer for a poker game to play out such that the skill difference becomes clear. I think most people will eventually recognize. I don't even know if that's true, but I think eventually you can kind of recognize, that you're up against Phil Ivey and you have no shot. But it's not going to happen in one hand, in 2 hands, in half an hour, in an hour necessarily, because the random element tends to hide this. But the thing is that the skill difference in the long run is just as stark and unforgiving as it is in chess. And that brings me to my premise of the video, which is that everybody is terrible at poker. Elite players are not in your games, and I think this is really an important point. It sort of goes without saying, but Phil Ivey is not in your 2-5 game. Nor are any of the people who play with Phil Ivey in cash games on a regular basis. Nor are any of the people who play online nosebleed games on a regular basis. These players are not in your 2-5 cash games. Not ever. They are not in your games. The people who are in your games are at best club level players, and it's possible to have an enormous skill advantage over them. Anyone who is at this club level um, means that there is potentially an enormous gap in skill that gets better than them. So if you feel like some players in your game are tough players or solid players, it's an indication about your skill level that you two are a club level player. And I feel like I need to say this because I've had this conversation with people like just about a zillion times where somebody says to me, "Oh, there's this guy, his name is, Jimmy Fats or whatever." And Jimmy Fats, man, he's so good at poker. I mean, he just outplays me every time we play, and he's just really really good at poker. And what I'm saying here is that Jimmy Fats is not good at poker. Jimmy Fats is actually terrible at poker. Because the people who are actually good at poker would wipe the floor with Jimmy Fats. And if you perceive that he's really really good, then it is a reflection on your current skill level. But the good news is that in this game, as I said, improvement gets incremental. But poker is so new; it's such a new thing, and people are getting better at it so fast. Poker's not new, but the no limit hold'em, it's just evolving very quickly. That it's fairly easy to improve a couple levels above where Jimmy Fats is at, and learn to pummel everyone in your game. I think this is true, at pretty much all the regular levels up to, like I said before, up to 5-10 live, maybe 2-4 online is already a little bit rarefied, but certainly there's a equivalent level online where you could pretty much learn your way to be the best player in your game. I think a lot of people, with just regular level of intelligence and skill that want to really work at it and achieve it, I think that's definitely possible. So now I'm gonna kind of pivot a little bit, and I'm gonna just do a little bit of myth busting. So the main thing I think that keeps players back, that keeps people at the club level, that keeps people playing, 2-5 games and not really making a ton of progress in 2-5 games or in 5-10 games or whatever, kind of gets people stuck a little bit, is that there's a lot of groupthink at these games. Poker it's both a very solitary game and it's also a very social game. It's solitary because nobody cares about you, how you did, how you ran, what you were thinking. Nobody cares. So in that way, it's completely solitary because everything that you do and think while you're playing poker, everything that happens to you, it happens to only you. And it really, your opponents don't care, your friends don't care, nobody cares. So it's solitary in that way, but it's obviously social because there's all these people around you that play poker and you see them on a regular basis. And because it's so social, it it it's predisposed to what I call groupthink, which is where certain ideas kind of penetrate the group and really take hold, and they don't go anywhere. They just persist. And and as long as you accept these ideas, you are not going to rise above the group. And this happens all the time in poker. Again, I can't tell you how many times, whenever I talk to anybody, whenever I take on a new student, whenever I just talk to somebody about poker, and that somebody is not an elite player, not a nosebleed player. That player is, a club level player, someone who's a reg at kind of regular stakes. Pretty much every time they're going to say something to me that I would categorize as groupthink, that they've internalized from playing in their regular games with regular people, and that's just plain not useful and not going to help them win in these games and get better. So, um, so, so I kind of already talked about this. Why am I going to do myth busting? The key point here, I'll just skip over a little bit, but elite players just don't think this way about no limit float. You should know that. This is one of the things that